Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Today, I am talking about the Utah Jazz and how this team can become a contender. Now, unlike the Mavericks team, I think this one isn't nearly as clear-cut, and it's more questionable how to actually make this team a legitimate contender. So the problem that I have with the Utah Jazz when actually trying to evaluate how to make this team better is there are no glaring weaknesses. Like, this is a pretty good offense and a pretty good defense. This offense is top 10 in the league. This year it's actually 9th in the league, and the defense was 11th out of the top 30 teams. Now, that is a drop-off for this team, and we'll talk about that in a second. But top 12 in both categories, just barely outside of the top 10 in defense, is very good, and that's a mark of a pretty good team. It's why they're a top seed in the Western Conference. However, this team is obviously not contending for any championships anytime soon. So the question is, how do they become that contender? Well, like I said, no glaring weakness, because when you look at his offense, I mean, you have Bojan Bogdanovic, who is played power forward / small forward, and he's a very good three-point shooter. He's shot 7 threes a game this year on 41%, can create a little bit of offense on his own, also plays well within a system. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is the #1 scoring guy in this team. He was really efficient this year while putting up 24 points per game and also improving upon his playmaking. Jordan Clarkson this year was really good coming off of the bench for them. Rudy Gobert has actually made some offensive improvements to the point where he can actually be decent as a post scorer. And Mike Conley, though he has without a doubt been a disappointment this year, his overall shooting has improved a little bit. His 2-point percentage is still not good, but his 3-point percentage is good, and he's taking a good amount of them, and he's still a decent playmaker. Would like to see him play make a little bit more, but he's also not horrible. Joe Ingles, who's the last starting forward on this team, he's a good 3-point shooter and a pretty good playmaker for his position. Averages 5 assists per game, which is actually a team high. And then the other forward who sometimes starts, it is Royce O'Neal, who is a guy who shoots the ball 5 times a game, and every team needs a guy who shoots that, like, infrequently, and he's that guy because he's a fantastic defensive player, a pretty good rebounder, also a surprisingly not horrible playmaker, and a 3-point shooter. Shoots 38.5% from 3. This is a team that is pretty good at shooting threes. Donovan Mitchell shoots 6, almost 7 of them a game. Bogdan shoots almost 7. Joe Ingles shoots 5. Mike Conley shoots 5. Jordan Clarkson shoots 6. Like, this is a team that's taking 3-pointers. Even Georges Niang, who is a backup forward / center, he shoots a 3 pretty often, and he shoots pretty well from there as well. 38.5%, putting up 3.3 in just 14 minutes of action. Like, this is a good shooting team, it's a pretty good offensive team, and it's a pretty good defensive team. Now, since we're getting onto the defense now, I do want to say that one thing that would make this team a lot better would just be simply if their defense from the last couple of seasons had held up. See, this year the Jazz had a bit of a fall off to 11th in the league. Last year and the year previous, they were the 2nd best defense in the league, and that was just because the Bucks eclipsed them, which is kind of a hard bar to get past. But a very, very good defensive team, and their offense was more middle of the pack, around 15th and 16th, but now they're a top 10 offense. So the issue is, basically, the offense picked up right as the defense fell off. And if you had that defense hold up while the offense picked up, that would make this a significantly better team. Like, imagine if the Utah Jazz were the 10th best offensive team in the league and the 2nd best defensive team. Like, how big of a difference would that make for this team? Like, I think that could legitimately be a team that wins, like, up to 60 games even if the cards are played right. And that's just not been the case, because as soon as the offense comes up, the defense goes down. And I think part of this is to blame on Rudy Gobert, who's put more of a focus on offense, which he hasn't proved on that end, but I also think his main focus should always be defense, and that's not been the case. Another thing that I could see improving for this team's offense is a bit of a pace change, as they're in the bottom 10 in the league in that category. I always think a high pace is good, and you have a decent amount of young guys who can run the floor, so try doing that a bit more. Defensively, though, I mean, Mike Conley's a good defender, Royce O'Neal's a good defender, Rudy Gobert is a good defender. Like, this team, even with just Rudy Gobert alone, should be a pretty good defensive team. Honestly, I just think Rudy Gobert got kind of lazy on that end, but if he really went all in on defense next year and this offense maintained itself or even got better, like, I think especially if Mike Conley figured it out after a year in Utah, that would be huge. But the problem that really lies with this team, and it's the fundamental problem with trying to get any fucking team in this league to contend, is they don't have a superstar. And I do not believe that Donovan Mitchell is going to be a superstar. As much as I like him, I just don't think that's his ceiling. Like, I think Donovan Mitchell is going to get, like, probably 15% better than he currently is, and that's about as far as he's going to go. Like, he's already 23 years old. Actually, he might be 24 by now, I'm not sure. Okay, he is 23, but he turns 24 in 1 month, so going in next season, he's going to be 24, which is right around when you expect to see players start to hit their prime. And I don't think Mitchell is #1 player on a championship team level, and I don't think improving him by 15% is that either. So it's a tough situation, because this is a team that certainly could be very good, but I just think there is a cap on how good they could be outside of a, like, 04 Pistons type of situation, which I will remind people who always bring this up, that is a very rare and very hard thing to obtain, and I don't think it should be expected of a team to be able to pull that off, because it's very difficult to win a championship in this league without a superstar level player, and doing so is an incredible feat, and that's why that 04 Pistons team gets so much credit. But I don't think this Jazz team could pull that off. I think they could get, like, to where they're basically a contender but not really, like the Toronto Raptors right now, or the Boston Celtics right now, or the Denver Nuggets right now. But I don't think they can be a contender level with their current team. But at the same time, I'm not suggesting this team blows it up whatsoever, but at the same time as well, if your goal is competing for a championship, I don't know that holding this core together is a solution to that. So it's an interesting situation where this team is clearly too good to be bad enough to get a star in the draft, and it's too good to just throw in the trash, because just you're not going to be able to competing for a championship, because that would be premature, and it would also be like, you have a good thing going, why throw it out just because you don't have a great thing going? I don't know. It's this team is like the pinnacle of the conversation of what is a franchise trying to accomplish, because of course teams don't want to be bad, but they also want to be contenders, but they also don't want to be bad. So it's a tough situation, because really you have to have the peaks and valleys of being bad for a while to be good enough to draft, like, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. Like, you have to have that low to have the high of the 2017 Warriors. So this Jazz team isn't in the position to have that low to get to that high, and they're, like, stuck in the middle here. But it's also a very good team, so I don't know what to tell you. Basically, with this team, they're going to need an 04 Pistons situation, or they're going to have to either trade for or luck into a superstar one way or the other. Maybe they draft one late in the first round and it's somebody that no one saw coming and he's just a very good player. But outside of that, this team is kind of stuck where they're at, and I mean, until the veterans on this team get too old, like outside of Mike Conley, because he's obviously going to be too old pretty soon, I mean, it's interesting. Rudy Gobert, 27 years old. He's got a few years left. I'd say like 4, being an elite player. Donovan Mitchell has plenty of time, obviously. This team is not going to be going anywhere anytime soon unless some drama happens, which is relatively possible with Rudy Gobert's weirdness. But I don't know. This one has me stumped. And I'm sorry if this video is just me saying I don't know a bunch, but basically, the Jazz need to pull off an 0-4 Pistons situation to be a championship contender. I'd say just for moves that they should make, maybe they should shop around Rudy Gobert to see if they could just get some really good offensive player for him. Like, let's say Karl Anthony Towns became available and the Minnesota Timberwolves just wanted to be a respectable team. I could see Rudy Gobert for Cat, as well as a couple first-round picks going to Minnesota. Rudy Gobert for Bradley Beal, maybe, if the Wizards wanted to remain above water, although it's kind of a weird fit with him and Donovan Mitchell. I don't know. This is me saying I don't know a bunch of times. I think next year, if Rudy Gobert can really focus in on defense again and this offense can take another stride, and let's say they're the 3rd best defense in the league and like the 8th best offense, that's a team that I could see making a Western Conference Finals appearance and maybe even pushing it to a couple of games. But it's not a team I can see winning a championship. And for the millionth time, I just don't know what I would do. So yeah, that's how the Utah Jazz become contenders. I don't know. Interesting situation to keep an eye on Utah. This is the pinnacle of stuck in the middle. So that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.